Diablo 4 has gotten some big juicy news about what's coming in the Season 1, both in terms of items and the hard socket, and nerfs and buffs to classes. In a recent interview with Forbes, Fergusson and Shelly elaborated a lot on this stuff, so let's see exactly what's going to happen, how we're going to alter our gameplay with the new season. Just to top it off, to kind of set people's expectations, the new season is gonna be good. We're gonna have a lot of things to do, but it will likely be smaller in scope, content, and everything that it delivers than future seasons, in case people would have this criticism lined up, fired up, just to shoot it out there. To just quote Fergusson, from a management of expectations perspective, when we talk about how the launch of Diablo 4 is the beginning, not the end, because we have a live service, that's one of the things people should think about with seasons as well. The reality is, this is our first season that we built while shipping Diablo 4 at the exact same time. This is the beginning of our seasonal journey in terms of where we can go from here. And if we're looking at the history of seasons in Diablo 3, each subsequent season has arguably been better and better and better and better compared to its predecessor. And obviously, a lot of new people are new to Diablo 4, so a more straightforward, easy to understand and get into season is probably better just to get everybody accustomed to. Considering that seasons will only last for a mere 3 months, you're gonna have plenty of time to get familiar with the game and everything that's coming into it, and hopefully in Season 2 we're gonna have some juicy content. Speaking of content, the mechanic of the season with the malignant hearts that are going to be socketed in has been clarified even more. First of all, there are some class-specific heart abilities out of the, we know so far there's 32 of them total, but we'll also have some, generic universal ones to be used on across multiple characters that are not specifically tied to the class that you're playing. Similarly, will be applied to legendary aspects and uniques, where a part of them will be generic, as in they will apply to other classes, stuff that gives you extra core skill or core damage, we don't know yet, and there will be some specific ones as well, which is obviously really good to kind of give a little bit more flavor, all together piled up on the already large database of all of the aspects that we have in the game. And coming with the aspects and uniques, of course, we have the heart system, which are going to be the new gems rather, but not really gems, because the heart sockets are actually separate from the gem sockets from what we know after the interview, and both can be used with the one exception where probably a lot of people have been thinking about being jewelry, since jewelry will only have the heart socket period, so no more skulls that give you armor will be placed into jewelry. Will this make us essentially squishier in the endgame, considering that we're going to be lacking the armor? Probably not. I do have a very strong opinion that the heart will also have tankiness, defensiveness, and survivability effects to them to help us survive, probably better than a mere 200 to 300 armor that a skull would give us throughout leveling in the end game. So that's probably going to be reassuring, since I know a lot of people have been thinking about the fact that they will be losing their armor from their gems and amulets, giving them a little bit of a worry towards endgame, since some classes are squishy, and that's hopefully going to change. And it will change, because they did announce that there will be buffs and nerfs. Well, listen, this is pretty self-explanatory. We know that buffs and nerfs are always going to balance out the game, and some things that are a bit overpowered are definitely going to be addressed. They did want to specify a little bit harder on the fact that there will be nerfs, probably to set people's expectations and not be of the mentality that everything is going to be improved and buffed. Which, at the end of the day, I think it's all fine and dandy, so long as the builds, the classes are balanced and competitive with each other to a certain degree, because you're never going to have exact same numbers out of exact same builds, out of exact same characters. Then I think that's perfectly fine. And in terms of gear, we will have one new Uber unique that's going to be coming this season. We don't know what it is yet from all the information that we have gathered so far, but Uber uniques have been a little bit of a controversy since they're particularly difficult to obtain. However, Shelly kind of more or less confirmed that the drop rate will improve over time, so that the Uber uniques are not the once in a lifetime type drop. And that's obviously good to know, considering that the content will rotate, so we won't have infinite amount of time to farm a specific unique before the next content rolls out. We don't know when this will apply, though. We don't know if it's going to be during Season 1 or during Season 2 or later seasons altogether and apply to Eternal Realm as well. But at least it's good to know that they do have the mentality of Alright, listen, players have killed 10 million monsters and still haven't received their Uber Unique yet. Let's make it a little bit more accessible, considering that for the first couple of weeks of Diablo 4, nobody has seen a Uber Unique outside of 1 or 2 players, at least publicly, that we know of. And just to nail this point down even further, everything is free in terms of content. People who have been playing Diablo for a while know this to be the case, but there's still new players that still don't understand how the season works, and we personally have had comments asking us if seasonal content will be free. It will be free. Nothing else is being paid for outside of the battle passes, which we'll talk about it in a second. So long as if you've bought the game, you can play the season, no strings attached, no extra expenses on yourself, and just enjoy the game. The battle pass is obviously different. We've talked about the battle pass before. There's a free version and a premium version. And for the premium version, you will only really unlock cosmetics, nothing that actually increases your player power in any way whatsoever that we know of so far. So you can rest assured there as well. You can obviously pay the extra buck to get the premium battle pass and unlock some pretty rad cosmetics, but that's usually about it. And in terms of how long does it take to actually complete the battle pass for people who have this objective, we have more or less confirmed Joe Shelly saying that if you are playing just a few hours a week and you're doing all the challenges and actually looking at the objectives and all of that, you should be able to get the full battle pass unlocked by the time the season will end, which is usually after the 12 weeks. Obviously, this is reassuring because we do know that there's quite a little bit of grinding to go in the game that we have so far, and it wasn't particularly clear as to how much grinding will be applied to the battle pass so that we can actually unlock everything, and that is reassuring as well. Not to mention that the battle pass will also be a place where you can earn the platinum currency that's being used mostly right now to purchase transmogs and cosmetics and mount and all of that stuff, which is good to know that we have an alternate source, although it also has been kind of confirmed that just doing the whole battle pass and unlocking all the platinum that you can get from it will not be enough to buy a full battle pass in the next season, for instance, although you can save a good chunk of it and maybe eventually buy a battle pass in future seasons or buy some expensive cosmetics or anything like that. Which I guess, you know, it is what it is. This is how microtransactions work for modern games. So far as it's not player power, we are happy. Also, a confirmation on the uniques, because it is a little bit of a contested area. Uniques are not meant to be the most powerful singular item that you can get. Sure, some uniques kind of define builds and define the endgame progression of your character. I'm thinking about Druid here, for instance. But not all of them are supposed to do that. Uniques, at least in the developer's perspective when it comes to designing them, are supposed to alter your build in a quirky way to make it fun, to make it a little bit strange, like how Werebear can cast Earth skills, because all the Earth skills are Werebear skills. That is actually really interesting. It might not provide the most immediate power to your character, but definitely alters it. And if we're going to be expecting the new Uber Unique and everything else that's coming into the Season 1, we need to expect that they're not going to be something that, oh, if I don't get this, I won't be able to finalize my build. So that's actually reassuring, because it's good to know that we're not specifically tied to a particular item to actually play the end game. And speaking of, when it comes to the end game, there's been some back and forth between people that consider the campaign to be an obstacle to playing the end game, which, I mean, I personally am for the campaign. I think it does a really good job at introducing the player to Diablo game, especially if there are new players, and I think this is the exact same point that we got from the devs in the Forbes interview as well, as to why the campaign is a requirement to be done once, by the way, only once, so that people can learn exactly what it is that Diablo does, considering that even for people who are playing the game for the first time and have done the campaign, they are still a little bit unaware of everything that the endgame provides in terms of hell tides, in terms of how the aspect works, in terms of endgame nightmare dungeons and all of that stuff. So it's good to have the campaign as a requirement, but it's going to be a one-time thing. And to be fair, it's a good chunk of why the game is so good, so we would recommend people do the campaign. And maybe you're a person that likes to do the campaign multiple times. Well, that's great, because Joe Shelly also tweeted separately from the interview that there are new campaign skip options. It will be both on the Eternal Realm implemented and on the Seasonal Realm implemented at the same time, where if you're playing through the campaign, if you finish the campaign before, throughout the campaign, you can actually skip it if you don't want to finish it. Maybe you just want to play a couple of chapters maybe you decided to go for the campaign, but then changed your mind and said, okay, I just want to do the open world. You can definitely skip it midway through, and we know that this feature is going to be coming into the game, which is great. And we're seeing more of these quality of life changes being addressed, together with all the bug fixes that we're going to have in the game. This is fantastic news. And we are holding our breath for that patch that will just elaborate on what actually will be nerfed and buffed when it comes to our classes, to kind of know what classes we're going to be playing. So stay tuned, we're going to cover that. And hey, you can also watch this video on our channel, by the way. It's actually really cool. And of course, if you're interested, and you can get more info and details about the seasonal content that we have available for you. So thank you for watching the video so far, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.